there, safe crackers, get your combinations ready because it is time for the Comic Vault, a vault full of comics in a sing-song tune. That's right, the Comic Vault is here to save the day on reviews for Free Comic Book Day, everybody. That's right, I took some free comics from Free Comic Book Day. That's what they're for, so I took them. I will preface my reviews with this. A good Free Comic Book Day comic book, not to say that other ones can't be well written, but or well drawn or whatever, but a Free Comic Book Day, the point of it is to try to bring people to the medium. It's free. That's why we have it, so that people who don't typically read comics can grab them. But what they've done with Free Comic Book Day really annoys me, which is now it's the time, well, I'll say it this way. In my opinion, Free Comic Book Day should be promoting the medium to get new readers, to get people interested. They should promote free comics for comic books, not necessarily for their products, and that's what it's become. Instead of promoting the medium, they're promoting future product. So Free Comic Book Day is really about the same as a shopper. You know, they give you this free shopper that says, here, pickles are 50 cents on Tuesday. And we go, really? I want to go get some pickles. So they go get their pickles, and then they sit down and thumb through the pickly pages. Anyway, I'm going to review some Free Comic Book Day comics. I'm going to try to be brief on these because I have 5 of them and I want to get them all knocked out in one day because it's an event. So let us start with Atomic Robo. I picked this guy up not really knowing who Atomic Robo is. Actually, I only picked up one mainstream, so I have 4 other ones, or 4. I have 4, including this one, that are not mainstream. But so from Red 5 Comics, Atomic Robo, and they also have backup features from Bonnie Lass and Neozoic. So I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised by Atomic Robo. I hadn't heard of it before Free Comic Book Day, so shoot me. I thought this was really clever. I thought it was sort of zany and sort of fun, and usually I don't like things that are a little over the top, but with these things there's sort of a wink and a smile. Usually things that are over the top are supposed to be funny because they're over the top, and that's not interesting. What's interesting about this guy is that the over the top stuff is witty. I like wit. I like things that are designed to be funny, not just things that are over-exaggerated and therefore supposed to be funny. That really bothers me. But that complaint is not about this book. This book is really funny. And the short story, it's a little short, so you get a complete story about Atomic Robo and Dr. Dinosaur having to team up to battle some kind of threat, and Dr. Dinosaur, spoiler, he double crosses them. Dr. Dinosaur is supposed to be an evil guy. So the dialogue is really funny. The events are really funny. Visual gags work. I really liked it. Bonnie Lass, I could take it or leave it. I don't really feel like I got enough in this to tell me anything about Bonnie Lass that I care to know. And it was also, I believe, yeah, you can pick up, it was just a short little thing from another Bonnie Lass comic book that you can pick up. And also, Neozoic 2, number 1, is coming out, and Neozoic, dinosaurs plus technology, it was okay. I mean, the dialogue's a little stilted, the concept is creative and fun. It's not the first time anybody's tried to put technology into an age that has dinosaurs, but I didn't get enough of that one to really get grounding for it either. It's just kind of enough to wet your whistle and say, are you interested? Unfortunately, no, I'm not. I might pick up some more Atomic Robo in the future because the Atomic Robo short, by itself, whole story, was great. I enjoyed it. So, on to the next one. Cullen Bunn's Season 1. It's not all of Season 1, of course. To my understanding, Season 1 was a big one-shot, a huge issue. And kind of a graphic novel, if you will. I don't know what things are called, but I would say that this was enough to get me interested. I might pick up Season 1. It's all, I'll say this, Free Comic Book Day ought to be a collection of at least one worth of a comic book. It has to be, like, this is okay. It's not a full story, but I don't mind if they cut it off and there's more I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here, but it really annoys me when they make it an incomplete comic book and then you have to go by issue 1. I understand a preview of a graphic novel. That's fine, because that's a larger piece. I just don't like it when they give you a one-shot or a free comic book that has little previews of many issues or just a little itty-bitty preview of an issue, and then you have to go pick up number 1. That's annoying. So this is not annoying. This is fine. I did enjoy this. The art's very pretty. It's I get a real sense of the high school climate that Peter Parker's in. So I think this is well done. I would recommend this one. This one I was kind of excited about, mainly because it's comic books plus Elvis. I mean, come on, it's comic books and Elvis. It's comic books and Elvis. But, so I had to pick it up. There's not much story to this, but it gives you little interesting tidbits and quotes from people. So, I didn't know that Elvis was a big comic book reader. Apparently he kept a stack with him every time he went on tour, and he would just read through comic books. That's what he would do between shows. And, so I really enjoyed this thing just because I started to learn stuff about it. There's a little mini story by Stan Lee in here that's kind of BS, but it's about it's about Elvis going to heaven and being all humble while everybody's like, wow, why does he have to stand in line? I don't know. I think that everybody who was going to heaven and is waiting in the line at the pearly gates, waiting for their turn, and Elvis is just sitting there calmly waiting, people be like, cool, that's Elvis, but nobody be like, wow, he's a saint, look at that guy, I spent every day with him and he was a really nice person. No, hardly any of these people know who Elvis is. He's a public figure. That doesn't make him a good guy. But I don't know, maybe I'm just living in a modern cynical age, and maybe people back in the 50s and 60s when Elvis was at his height, maybe they were, I don't know. I think it's silly. I think Stan Lee sort of over-exaggerated the coolness of this man, we'll call him that, the character of this man. I don't know that Elvis was a good guy or not. I assume he is because everybody who's writing this is really interested. Now this is also really interested in the idea that Elvis is a good guy. But this is a preview of another graphic novel, so we have 2 previews, and I was fine with this because it takes little sections, and it gets me interested to look into the graphic novel. I understand why you're not going to give away an entire graphic novel for free. That's fine. But I found like some of these little tidbits were interesting. Like they have a quote from Bob Dylan. They have a couple quotes from Frank Sinatra, and the quotes from Frank Sinatra I thought were really interesting and apparently well concealed. Good show, people who don't want me to read stuff that they've written on the there we go. Alright. It says, this is what Frank Sinatra has to say on rock and roll. His kind of music is deplorable, a rancid-smelling aphrodisiac. It fosters almost totally negative and destructive reactions in young people. That's what Frank Sinatra said. Now keep in mind that Frank Sinatra might have been saying that in response to rock and roll because that's what people wanted him to say. So I don't know if that was his actual opinion, but he was quoted in saying that. So yeah. So here's what Frank Sinatra has to say on Elvis. There have been many accolades uttered about Elvis's talent and performances through the years, all of which I agree with wholeheartedly. I shall miss him dearly as a friend. He was a warm, considerate, and generous man. So that's really interesting to me. Really interesting. Now we're going to move on to Mouse Guard. That's right. This is a collection of largely one-shots. Things that, now these are little short stories that are trying to get you interested in source material or upcoming material, and I think only one of them is a preview. I think Return of the Dapper Men. It has 5 little stories in here. Mouse Guard, Labyrinth, yeah, that Labyrinth. Return of the Dapper Men, Rust, Cursed Pirate Girl, and Cowboy. I think all of these things, except for Return of the Dapper Men, is supposed to be a short story connected to the universe, not necessarily a preview, I think. But Return of the Dapper Men, I believe, was a preview. Anyway, I actively tried not to pick this up on Free Comic Book Day. I told myself, nope, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pick up this thing. I'm going to let a kid get this book because a kid should be able to read Mouse Guard. Now, I'll get the other things that a kid's not going to be interested in, or at least that a kid might not pick up. I don't know. Maybe Atomic Robo is a mistake, but I did enjoy Atomic Robo. Graphic Elvis a kid's not going to pick up. The book I'm going to review next, the last book I'm going to review, is not something a kid's going to pick up. This guy I wanted kids to get. And we appeared on Free Comic Book Day at Vintage Stock, and right before we left, after all of these guys had been long gone, one of the guys came up to me, one of the guys that works at the Vintage Stock, and said, "Hey, dude, I picked this up at another comic book store. I noticed we were all out and you guys didn't get one, so here you go." And I said, "Thank you, you're very kind and considerate, but you defeated my purpose." Anyway, so I did read this because he was kind enough to go get me one. So, Mouse Guard was cute. It was really fun, and it's about a little puppet show that I think probably gives the history of some events in Mouse Guard. What's really weird about this is that, spoiler warning, there are suicide themes in this Mouse Guard. Really? Really? I mean, I thought this was for children, and there's a suicide theme in there. This woman's getting ready to kill herself because nobody wants to marry her. Now, that's a very classic idea. I forget the myth, the girl of the name of the girl in the myth, but this echoes Greek mythology where a woman's sad because nobody wants her. And then eventually somebody who's courageous enough to win her hand in marriage, all he has to do is ask. So that's what is in Mouse Guard. Mouse Guard is sort of an overview of events. It's not necessarily a full-fledged short story, but it's kind of fun to see what they do with the puppet show and reenacting the events of Mouse Guard. Labyrinth is fun. It's quirky. I've always thought the Labyrinth would make a good horror movie. Because I've always thought it was freaky. And matter of fact, whenever I think back on Labyrinth, I always forget that it was even a musical. And I'm like, oh yeah, they did have some goofy musical numbers in there too, didn't they? Snips and snails and puppy dog tails. And I don't know. I always think of it as a creepy movie. But maybe it's because a kid's being kidnapped. Who knows what they're going to do with that kid? I don't know. But watch the movie and find out. But Labyrinth is about Hoggle, and Hoggle's a little dismayed because he wants someone to love, and he gets some advice, and hilarity ensues. And the Dapper Men was weird. The Dapper Men was kind of bizarre. I'm a little interested to see where they go with it. Maybe their preview worked on me. I'm not entirely certain. I don't think I'm going to pick it up, though. Rust is interesting. It's about a kid with a jetpack on a farm. And that's all I'm going to say on that one. A kid with a jetpack on a farm. It's kind of strange and quirky. Another thing that's extremely quirky and altogether uninteresting to me is this Cursed Pirate Girl thing, where it's just bizarreness and there's no story to it. It's just a retelling of, well, at least this supposed old man who wants people to call him Alice. I call him supposed because I don't believe this character could even be real. So here's this guy who says, "I want you to call me Alice, and now I'm going to tell you about all the pirates that I've fought in my lifetime." I found it was ridiculous. The one thing that I really latched onto in here was this character called Cowboy, and he's a little boy. He's a little boy, and he cracks me up. He's catching all the people in his family who have done evil things or criminal things and taking them to the law. And he's really funny. And it's drawn in the style of Calvin and Hobbes. And if you have heard me say it in the past, I'll say it again. I really like Calvin and Hobbes. I really like Franklin Richards' Son of a Genius. I really like that thing. And Cowboy does not disappoint in this one either. It's really fun. The last one I'm going to review, 2000 AD. Now, I've had the pleasure of reading some old 2000 ADs. I had a friend that picked up a whole group of them, and I managed to read some of the stuff. And they are reprinting large volumes of 2000 AD, so if you want just to read Judge Dredd, you can go collect the volumes of Judge Dredd. I think some of them are available in the States, some of them are only available in England. Unfortunately. I have a friend who bought those, and he had them all shipped from England, and then they printed the first edition of the first volume in America. So, yay! It stinks for him, but because it was kind of expensive buying those things and getting them shipped. But so they do have a short story of Judge Dredd, and I can only imagine that this has something to do with Judge Dredd movie that's coming out eventually. So, 2000 AD is bloody, it's fun, it's creepy, I enjoy it. I really like this thing. Judge Dredd on the job. It's a short story. It's a complete story, but really all it is Judge Dredd having a guy ask him about the stuff that he does while he's actually doing his job. So there's a TV show called On the Job, and they're asking about his job. And he's going around beating up bad guys and sentencing them to their various sentences. And so it's interesting if you've never met Judge Dredd. Well, none of us have met Judge. If you've never read any Judge Dredd, I'd say it's worth at least looking into this guy. Granted, of course, these are Free Comic Book Day, and it might be hard to get your hands on this one now. But then they have something called Ichabod Azrael, The Grievous Journey of Ichabod Azrael. And I did not enjoy that one. I thought it was kind of dull. And it didn't get interesting until right at the end of the preview. So, granted, most of these things are incomplete stories, and they're all short stories. They're all short previews. Well, most of them are. But that's the way 2000 AD is. It gives you segments of a story, so you just buy the edition. It's not like Marvel where you go, oh, I want to read Spider-Man and X-Men and Punisher and whatever, and then you have to go buy their individual issues. This guy you buy a volume of and you get a whole lot of stuff. At least that's the way it was back in the day. I assume they're doing it still the same way. But so I was not fazed by incomplete stories in this thing at all, because I kind of expected that to be the way it was. Yeah. So this Western that they did, this Ichabod Azrael, was about a guy who, you know, gets killed, and then the story starts. Or at least the story ends here, but that's where his story is supposed to start in the future. But I didn't enjoy it. He's not an interesting character. He's not a redeemable character. Maybe that's coming in the future, but this one he was not. Zombo. Zombo Part 1. The Day Zombo Died. Zombo is this ridiculous... I'm not entirely certain what this is about. It's about a zombie who is a crime fighter or something like that. And it appears to be that the President of the United States, or the President of whatever country this happens to be, is somebody who is Donald Trump-like. So he's very Trump-like. I'm not certain if he's supposed to be Trump or not, but he is Trump-like. And he keeps firing everybody, and it's really funny to me. Like, you're fired. You're fired. Don't question me. You're fired. It was a good idea. You're rehired. But sir, you rehired me. You questioned it. You're fired. So I thought it was really entertaining, and the idea of this zombie man hero villain thing is really weird and goofy, and I have to enjoy it. They have a short story in here called Bax the Burner from Alan Moore. I'm pretty certain it's a reprint. It's the only black and white thing in here. It was well done. It was interesting. It was quirky. It was not entirely unlike something you would see in the first... Oh no. Heavy metal movie. Something like that. So it just reminds me of something you would see from one of those things. Granted, I kind of feel like it was sort of not entirely unlike 2000 AD. But, so, yeah. I'm moving on. Alan Moore's was really funny. It's a complete story in there, so you do get something that's not a short. Judge Dredd, the Alan Moore story. And then they have this thing called The Green Pedestrian Palm, and it's making fun of the Green Lantern, and he's really sort of a glorified crossing guard who decides to use his powers for something, and he gets decides to use his power as a superhero and gets an unpleasant surprise by the end of it. So I have to say that of all of the stuff that came out for Free Comic Book Day, the one thing that I was really jazzed about and ended up really enjoying was 2000 AD. So I really enjoyed 2000 AD. And then I would say there's probably Mouse Guard and Elvis and Spider-Man and I'll say this, I enjoyed all of them that I picked up, but none more than 2000 AD. And if I had to recommend something, as long as you're old enough to read 2000 AD, I'd recommend that one. If not, then I'd recommend Mouse Guard or one of the other three. Really, all three of them are worth recommending. I'm not sure why I split them all up and tried to recommend them. I recommend this one. I don't recommend this one. I recommend your mother. But I think this was a pretty decent Free Comic Book Day. So, thanks for watching the Comic Vault, guys. Guess what? The Comic Vault is vast and ominous, huge and unknowable. It's quite a lot of comics. It's that we get to share with you guys. And if you would like to buy from the Comic Vault, you can go to wearegeeksnotnerds.com and click on the Comic Vault. That's right. And now, if you would like to donate to the Comic Vault or to Geekvolution in general, we do have a P.O. Box. It is Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. So thanks for watching the Comic Vaults, guys. Thanks, guys, for watching the Comic Vault. We'll catch you later.